Aló. Em, empezamos. Thank you.
Hello, hello. So this session is some kind of a follow-up of the opening of our, how do you call this place? This multi? The neighborhood for climate action. So maybe we also have neighborhood problems of sounds and things like that. But one thing we have in common is the heat. That's making us more near one to another. So we are going to have a session gathering the partners of this hub. And I think I'm going to turn first. We're going to have a session separated in two parts. One is, okay, what have you achieved until now at COP? And maybe a second question would be, how do you think we can leverage this synergy between all of us? And the second part would be, what do you expect from the coming days? So maybe I'm going to turn to you from ICLEI, if you want to take the floor first.
Yes. Thank you very much, Yves Laurent. First of all, I would like to express my big gratitude and thanks to all our partners that have been working with us so hard in the last months to ensure that we have actually this neighborhood area, which is quite interesting, special.
I think you have
it has never been done in this way at COPs before. From ICLEI, we are the point of local and regional governments to the UNFCCC, so represent the constituency. We have been kind of,
you have to keep the mic this way, I guess.
We have hosting these kind of pavilions since 2007, but it's great to have now this kind of neighborhood model, as it brings together, in my view, the essential elements of what we are talking about when moving into the climate negotiations and COP negotiations. From a city and an urban perspective, surely the issues around infrastructure, the issues around energy and the ways of how we make ourselves economically moving forward, the issues around water, the issues around resilience, the impacts of climate change, they all come together very much in a urban area in particular, whatever the jurisdiction may be, if this is a city government, a regional government, a state government, a provincial government. So from that perspective, I'm very grateful to the Ministry of Cities, to all our partners here to have together. When it comes now to respond to your question, of course we are just in basically day 3 now of this COP30, but we have had, particularly yesterday and the day before, what was called thematic areas around also infrastructure, water, cities, in particular here in the COP. And from a city's perspective, definitely what we have seen is quite motivating. The COP presidency itself, plus the Ministry of Cities here in Brazil, is bringing the agendas of cities on those topics very much forward. We have, of course, been working with them to ensure that the messaging gets across. We will now have to see how this is going to be taken into the negotiated outcomes of COP30. But one thing is already very clear. The essence of looking at subnational government at all levels will be recognized and emphasized in the negotiated outcomes of COP30. Secondly, what we will see is that there is going to be a demand also for the local actors to stand up with all of the other partners within the areas that are necessary in order to provide the quality services to citizens and residents at an urban level will be brought into this as well. And I'm quite optimistic that there will be, thirdly, referencing towards the constituent itself and this kind of multi-level collaboration and multi-sector collaboration is an essential element to move us forward now in implementing the NDCs that the nations are putting on the table. Interestingly, the NDCs as they are today, around 120 NDCs are now on the table. We have seen that the emphasis and integration of what we call urban components in national NDCs have definitely increased since the last NDCs. So that is really good because it shows that parties know and understand, especially domestically or nationally, that they need to work with the other levels of government in their country or in their nation. Some countries have already by now endorsed what is called CHAMP. This is a coalition or are part of the coalition for high level ambition partnerships. And these countries are now, I think, 77 countries plus the EU that have endorsed that. This means that they will domestically work with subnational governments to ensure that the implementation of NDCs domestically is put forward. There are a number of large countries like China, Brazil, India, South Africa, where this is not yet the case, but they are having very strong urban components in their NDCs. And this brings me to you here, also our partners. I think all of you will be requested in terms of infrastructure, in terms of resilience, in terms of water, in terms of all of the other public services that are need to be provided, will be requested to step in and step up as well. So we are on day 3. We have still a number of days to go, and we will look forward to continue to work here with our partners at the neighborhood, but also with the COP presidency and for us, the Ministry of Cities in particular, to ensure that we get also text into the negotiated outcomes. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. It's been very precious to have this. And I'll tell you a little bit about what happened to us hosting you here in the Buildings Pavilion, but I'm going to keep this for the end. And I'm going to pass the floor to you, Thomas, to talk a little bit about water, what is happening, what do you expect, what happened.
Well, hello everyone, and thank you for arranging this. We are very happy to be part of this community. Water for Climate Pavilion is in itself a collective or a community of practice of now over 90 partners. And what this collaboration now between the 4 hubs has created is actually a neighborhood for that community to further flourish and work together and find collaborations around. So I'm very happy as chair of the Water for Climate Pavilion Steering Committee to be here. So thank you for that. In terms of what has been achieved, as said, 3 days into COP, I think it's a little bit early to say that we have sort of the very distinct results, but we can see some tendencies, I think. I read about an agreement this morning for about $20 billion invested for investments in water. That happened yesterday or last night. We were co-organizers of a ministerial meeting yesterday, and I think it's small signs that might send you signals. But during the meeting with 12 different ministers from different countries represented in the speaker list, 4 additional one entered the room that was not assigned to be there, and then they were brought into the dialogue. So obviously water has been recognized as important also from countries that previously hasn't been addressing it as significantly, or at least as publicly. So small signs that water is being recognized. I think that makes me happy, being a water person, but also having been in the civil engineer and urban development sector for more than 10 years, to see that water is now brought into this context in terms of not only the technical solutions, but the nature-based solutions, the open spaces, the areas, creation of risk or flooding mechanisms by technologically and other solutions as well. I think cities like Copenhagen is, for example, a very good benchmark in terms of that. So I'm very much looking forward what this neighborhood collaboration can lead to, and happy to continue the dialogue and how to evolve from this. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Yeah, in terms of achievement, well, we must say that we had one yesterday, and because yesterday was a Cities Day, wasn't it? I mean, it was an important day for this question, and there's been several ministerial roundtable, thematic ministerial roundtable on housing, on many things, and it's finished. I mean, of course, well, maybe it was preaching the core, preaching to the core, preaching the core. I don't know in English how it is, but there was some kind of really a consensus between all the people in the room, all the ministers, and all the representatives that the urban question is a key question to succeed in terms of climate change, and I think this is so obvious that we do not have to preach anymore for that, but on our side. But we also had a session on, so as buildings is the question here, we had an important session of the first intergovernmental Council for Buildings and Climate, which gathered ministers from many countries. I don't remember exactly the numbers, and maybe someone can tell me. No, but there's been several, I think about 20 ministers and 25 countries represented yesterday to take into account and to advocate for the implementation of a common declaration that we had last year in Paris, that is called the Déclaration de Chaillot, endorsed by 60 governments. And this ministerial meeting was one of the first one of implementation of this Déclaration de Chaillot. It was a very important meeting, and we made important decisions. So to us, this second day of COP was a very important one, and we are really now happy to continue the work. But it's what was expected in some ways already done there. So we're very happy of that. With it, I'm going to get to you representing CDRI, because yes, link of city, water, buildings, infrastructure. Where are we? Where are you? What have you been doing?
Thank you. Thank all of us for being here. In these 3 days at the COP, what most important, in our opinion, is different partners around us, because that shows that we are aligned in the same direction, because we cannot have impact or scale in our programs, in our projects, if we work independently. So if the water sector is not linked to the power sector, it won't work. We have the experience in the Caribbean 2 weeks ago with Hurricane Melissa in Jamaica. They have no power, but because they don't have power, they don't have communication, they don't have health, they don't have medicine, they don't have nothing. So if we have all of us together, the same goal that is focused on resiliency to disasters and adaptation to climate change, we will have a real big impact in the communities and in the countries. And that's the role that we are trying to make from CDRI, that catalyze all that experience, all that knowledge that all of us has, and put it in one direction, that is to create resiliency in any sector that will create that will save lives. So right now in these 3 days, I think that all of us, we are showing our experience, our knowledge, and if we do that in the good way, in the next days, that alignment is going to happen. We're going to find all that synergies that you say, okay, water, I need this from the power sector. How can we make it real? Which country do we work together? Let's make a pilot and try it there and show that to the world and create impact. And that's what we are doing here right now. So I'm not going to be any longer than this, but I think that right now we are knowing each other, what are our capabilities, and we can do better in the future.
I'm gonna, yeah. I can do, I'm sorry, I can't help it.
I think now it would. Is it okay just to come quickly on what my colleague said? I'm so happy what you just said here. I think the resilience part, especially in urban infrastructure, energy services, in urban areas, is becoming critically impacted by the effects of climate change. And we have been very happy today. We just launched a new fund with the German government and the German Development Bank of 350 million Brazilian reais, around 60 million euros, to help as minimum 20 cities in Latin America to provide for funding as grants to help them setting up adaptive measures, in particular for critical infrastructure and for vulnerable populations in these areas. Secondly, to provide for a pool of pooling the risk that is available and to bring this into the insurance sector and have insurances coming into this. This is going to be quite fundamental and is very innovative. We will be working with cities already working like Acapulco, Cancun, here, Buenos Aires, Recife, and a number of others. And I think this is what is so important, to connect these various issues that come together and where local leaders in particular have to decide upon. But if we as several stakeholders come together into this and work and support that work, I think that will really then show that this COP is about implementation and hopefully bring that also further in very concrete steps. Thanks. Sorry.
Yeah, great. Thanks it's great to hear. I just want to jump on this question from the building side. You know, we have here, this pavilion has been set up by a Global Alliance for Buildings and Construction that is now gathering about 400 members from all the value chain of the building sector, including 70 countries. So it's just like, you know, it's just like a global hub, a global platform, gathering everybody to align and to make the case for buildings and climate, which was not in the roadmap of COP 10 years ago. So it's been incredibly progressive, and we are gaining and gaining. And I just wanted to add on what you've been saying. We would propose a MOU between Global ABC and the CDRI to see how buildings, because we are at the beginning. I just want to come back to a few years ago. Sorry for that. At the moment, COP21, when we raised the Global ABC, the question of adaptation was not really at the center. It was more mitigation. What are we going to do for the 1.5 degrees, etc. So since COVID, we see that there is a shift. More and more people are working on adaptation and resilience in the building sector, and this is a chance also for local authorities, because in some way, the mitigation question is a global top-down question. It's really something that comes from what you have to do for the global level. Resilience and adaptation is something that comes from the ground. It has to come from very local solutions. So it's a shift, and this puts local authorities at the middle, at the center of the action. So I think it's very interesting. So that's one of the questions of the path of reflections, but we very happy to contribute and to discuss with CDRI, because it's been years that we've been thinking how we can, and I think we need to go deeper into that. How can we partner on this question of infrastructure and superstructure? What is infrastructure in buildings? It's always a question, is it essential buildings, infrastructure? What about schools, hospitals? What role do they play in the resilience, and etc.? This is really something that, you know, could connect these two questions together. So I would go. I don't know how long we have still. I don't know exactly the okay. So, but you wanted to add something on what you are expecting from the future of collaboration, or?
I would like just to add that being a policy institute as we are, working with the global processes like the UNFCCC and further the Rio Convention and the biodiversity and the certification processes, also being engaged in the UN 26 Water Conference, and also hosting our own platforms like the World Water Week and the Water for Climate Pavilion and Swedish Water House. I would say that we're trying to make the circle concluded by looking at the global processes, but also being engaged in some research projects where we can bring the experience and the knowledge back into the policy recommendations that we as an organization, but also in the partnership, work together with, and also bringing in the social, economical, and the justice perspectives for the people living in the cities, in the urban environments. In terms of that, I think this collaboration forward can help us bring further perspectives than the smaller pilot projects that we have, because you have experience, you have skills and competence and expertise that maybe can accelerate the knowledge and the feedback into the processes that we work with and hope to influence to get the speed up, to say. Thank you.
I would have another question to us all. How can we better connect with what is happening there? I mean, obviously, there are some discussions there, negotiations on important things. But I don't know if you feel the same. They seem to be a little separate from what we're doing here, on the action, on the what we're trying to do here, trying to find some implementation solutions, trying to work on that. And there seems to be negotiations like a little separate, abstract, and different from what we're talking here. What do you see? Do you see a path of better, for example, if I talking about finance, how do we better align to Article 2.5.c with the work that we are doing? Obviously, we are doing this kind of work. I mean, aligning finance with the climate, Paris Climate Agreement is exactly what we are trying to do. I guess it's not only, of course, not only finance, but it's climate action. But I mean, these arise from one from the other. So how do you see this link between what we are doing here and what they are doing there?
But I don't think that is so different. We need that role that gives us the pathway to land our ideas and our experience in the territories. Because if we don't have that part of the communication, it will be only us working in our, we know from the reality. But we need that perspective to land our projects. And as you were saying at the beginning, the feet on the ground, all that knowledge that we have produced that conversation, because we are the ones who are in the field knowing what is happening in the reality. So it's not that we came from the pocket, like, you know what, invest in power sector. No, we are there learning from our experience and communicate it to them so they can make global decisions that open the door for us to continue learning and focusing the sector that we are focused on, the resilience and climate change and adaptation. So I think that they are linked, but there's two different steps. And They need us, and we need them, and that will create more impact.
Can I respond? No, can I tell a little story? Because the Water for Climate Pavilion started in 21 in Glasgow. It was a water pavilion. The next year in Sharm el-Sheikh, it was called the Water for Climate Pavilion, and we were totally aligned, speaking to each other as water people about the problems, the issues, and what we needed to do. But we also recognized that there were few other sectors present in the Water for Climate Pavilion, and we were not present there either. In theirs either. So we totally changed the perspective and the concept of how we work. And I think leading to a vision and an ambition to reach out to other sectors, to be part of the panels and the discussions, not only in the zone, but also in dialogue with the negotiators. And I think this, what we see here, the Mutirao between the four of us, is actually an example of what that led through to. And I know you've had the same ambitions. We don't need to preach to ourselves. We need to find the ways on how to watering all the discussions. Whether it's energy, whether it's building, whether it's urbanization, or whether it's farming or agriculture or forestry, we need to have water in there, and that's the ambition, and I think that's how we reached. And for us, it's been an annual work. So the COP is more of the event where actually things take place that we already started in January, or already started in 2021 in Glasgow, and we see it as a stepwise process where actually each and every COP has to deliver on a certain level for us to build further on. And I think if we can share that ambition, which I understand we do, I think we have a good basis and a sort of a baseline for us moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. For citizen regions or local authorities and local governments and municipal authorities, it's a little bit different than from your perspective, because since the convention in 1992, the LGMA, local governments and municipal authorities, was created as a constituency, one of the 7, to report and interact directly with the parties. So for us as a constituency, we have, besides what we do here in the pavilions, showcasing the good practices, advancements, progress, we have, of course, also opportunities to directly intervene at certain moments in time in these negotiations. So from a process, it's a little bit different. But on your question, how can this be connected between what is happening there in the party discussions and us? I would say that that connection is depending very often on the goodwill of each COP presidency. And this COP presidency, as the ones that you have referred to since 2021, have been COP presidencies that have been in particular looking towards connecting other sectors into this. At the same time, though, I think we must also be very clear that we have to respect that nations have, as you said, have to find solutions to tackle climate change at a global level, and it is their responsibility and their task to do so. So I think we should also leave them that particular space of negotiating, because they need to negotiate on what is each one's contribution in this overall game. And that needs to be, I think, absolutely respected. But having said that, us being actors, stakeholders that can help push some of those agreements, that's the connection, that's the kind of thing that we should try to get at. So trying to stimulate in our discussions with parties to tell them we are here to help you advancing solutions, to help you to find compromises amongst yourself. But we should also not take their task or their responsibility. It is their responsibility to do so. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. So I'm going to turn to Leah now. If you prefer to finish your message, or
No, I'm writing my notes.
okay, you know, I'm going to turn to Leah from UN Habitat now to ask exactly the same questions. What have you achieved until the beginning of COP? What are you expecting to happen? And from the COP, but also from the little village we have here, and how can we better link what we are doing here in terms of implementation, action agenda, and things like that, and what is happening there in terms of negotiations. So go ahead.
Thank you so much, and thanks for having me here. And I think, let me start with, it's amazing that we have a neighborhood here. I think this is really visionary because it's showing that we need to work together across sectors and also across different stakeholders to make this happen. So first of all, a big thank you to everybody here. I need to speak more into this. All right. So let me not look at you guys, but let me look here. So big thank you, especially for having this neighborhood approach. And if you were here yesterday, no, the day before yesterday for the launch, there was a massive crowd, there was a massive amount of energy in that hallway, in the street, that really showcased that this is the right approach. Working across sectors, working together, working across partners is really what is needed. And I think this is also what is at the heart of this COP. This COP being an implementation COP and a COP of truth, as we've been hearing, is critical. So to come to your question, and that's where the notes were coming in that I was drafting, is let me reflect maybe a little bit on what I've been hearing and seeing and how we can hope to push that forward. So yesterday, and I know many of you were part of this, yesterday, 11/11 for SDG 11, a really big day dedicated to cities, regions, to the multi-level climate action, multi-level governance conversation. And what was really clear, there was lots of energy in that room, but also lots of conversations where national governments said, yes, we want to work with our cities. Yes, we want to work together. Yes, multi-level climate action is important. Yes, they need to be integrated more closely into what is happening here in the negotiation rooms. I'm pointing in the right direction. Yes, I'm pointing in the right direction. What is happening there in these negotiation rooms? So there is willingness, which is a fantastic, fantastic building block. And that's thanks to all the work that has been going on over the past years, all the efforts that this community has been doing. So I think that's my one big reflection is yesterday has shown that there is a massive opportunity that we currently have. Second thing that we've seen is subnational governments are ready. They want to be part of this conversation. They're ready to deliver. They are already delivering with a wide range of actions, but they're happy to take this further. And I think that's a second big part of that energy that is in the room. And the third thing is, I can even back it up with data. So if we've been looking at the NDCs and the ones that were submitted until just a couple days before COP, there was 67 NDCs, and around 3/4 of them are talking about multi-level governance as means of implementation of their NDCs. 3/4. That's fantastic. That's really a move into the direction that we want to go into, and in terms of how we are implementing and how we want these NDCs to be implemented. So if we're now, of course, looking into, all right, how can we translate all of this into the negotiations? I'm looking at everybody in the room to help us to make this happen. I hope there's some representatives from national governments that are ready and really have heard the conversations from yesterday and are willing to take this into the negotiation rooms. There is, of course, a lot that cities and regions are here to also support in terms of this messaging. And I think the most important thing is that we continue working together, and that we are continuing having this conversation and this collaboration. I have very high hopes and expectations for this outcome of this COP, and really seeing that these conversations that we've been having here and in the side events really make it into these negotiated outcomes, and that we have a COP outcome that's more inclusive and more holistic than ever. Let me end on that positive note.
Thank you. I think we can, I don't know if you have something to add. I just want to add for myself that I think that we are the people that let's say, not us, but what we represent. Let's keep it a little humble. What we represent, the people gathered here, let's say, and the people that are represented by the people represented here, because we mostly have organizations that represent people. They are the people that show that things that physically can happen on the ground, and in some way it is easing the negotiation path, because when, as a government, for myself, for example, before taking engagements, before to go, I need to know if what we decide will be possible to implement. And this is globally what we are doing here. We're showcasing that solutions are, that we can push, that we can go one way, and it's not going to be a catastrophe. It's going to be an opportunity for people. It's going to be an opportunity for companies, for economy, and for well-being. So I think it's this kind of complementarity that I think that is quite important on the job that we are doing here, and hopefully doing this more together. There will be other sessions like that in coming days, because this session is going to be reproduced in your pavilions, if I understand well. And so very happy to have this conversation, to go further on this conversation. So unless there is some, do you want to have any other remarks, which is perfectly fair, or unless there is some questions in the room that want to be addressed? One more point.
Because what you just mentioned here triggered something that I think is important. We are talking about bringing the rest of the world into this negotiation room and into this COP, but I think we also need to talk about the vice versa, to make sure that whatever is being discussed here and what is being discussed in these in the negotiations is also being translated back to people. I was just on another panel, and there was a young lady sitting there saying, until 1 month ago, I've never heard the word NDC. So if we are talking about NDC implementation with people, for people, we need to have really strong communication about what implementation looks like and the benefits for people on the ground.
Yes, acronym. We probably should drop acronym. That would be the first measure, apart from having a little bit of fresh air. So have a nice evening, everybody. We are continuing action here, and many things happening on the Buildings Pavilion and on your pavilions. So, well, please go around and come to see us. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we need to discuss about this MOU between CRI and WC. I think it's a good way to go further. So
Very likely.
yeah.
What is the hardest thing? What's the
SMS.
Just wanted a hug.
Yeah, I'll send this and then